Oi, Hughie. It's time for one last death predictions tier list for the boys. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. Today, I have a final tier list ranking of the boys' characters based on if they will live or die. This time, it is for the series finale. Not the season finale, the entire series finale. Because The Boys comes to an end next week. We just got the penultimate episode and lost yet another character. So I've got the remaining characters here, along with the major ones who've already died this season. I'm going to compile them in this tier list, again, based on my final predictions. I did this before the season. I did this at the mid-season point. It's time to do it one last time. So join me down below with your final death predictions for The Boys Season 5, and of course hit that like button, subscribe to that notification bell, and be on the lookout for more videos coming very soon. But I say we just go ahead and dive in. So the tiers I have today are alive and well, should be safe, up in the air, not looking too good, rip, and already dead. And unfortunately, we have added to the already dead tier for a beloved character very recently, but I have the 4 major deaths of the season here. I didn't include some of the smaller deaths like the celebrity cameos of Seth Rogen or, Jared Padalecki's character. Just wanted to focus on the main players who have died this season. And disclaimer, goes without saying, major spoiler warning for the entirety of The Boys Season 5, episode 1 through 7. If you haven't seen it, spoilers galore await, so you've been warned. First up, we've got A-Train, who of course is already dead. He died in the first episode of the season, the series premiere, sacrificed himself, but he went out heroically. I think he had the best arc of most of the characters in the show so far, as he died a hero. Ultimately, he was this a-hole in the opening, but the way that he, slows himself down to save a girl in the streets parallels his opening when he runs right through Robin. So I thought that was beautiful writing, a nice bookend to his character. And he gets to sort of stick it to Homelander, which is a fitting end for him. So I really thought he had probably the best death of the season so far. Then we got Firecracker, who again already died. She died at the end of episode 5. And Homelander killed her, so she kind of turned her back on her savior that she grew up worshiping to worship Homelander, even though she didn't really fully believe it deep down. And when she makes the definitive decision to turn her back on her savior, Homelander kills her. It was just like a poetic ending in a way. Then we got Noir too, who had a really quick death. The Deep just kills him in this fit of rage in their podcast studio, so he died in episode 6, that was, and he just got. Like, I think they could have done more with this version of the character, but now we've lost 2 Noirs in one show.
Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
And finally, and unfortunately, Frenchie died at the end of episode 7, the penultimate episode. We knew one of the OG boys was going to die, and hell, another probably will, as I'll predict momentarily. But I was bummed to see him go. The writing was on the wall all season long. They kind of been teeing up how Frenchie and Kimiko, want this life for each other where they can live happily ever after. But then they kind of realize that they have different goals and aspirations in life and what they view as settling down. So it kind of seemed like one of them was going to make the sacrifice play. And one of my predictions early on was that Frenchie was going to die for Kimiko, and that's pretty much what we ended up getting. Frenchie is a distraction when Homelander shows up at their secret hideout, so Sage and Kimiko hide in the zinc container where Homelander cannot find them. He's still about to go search it, but Frenchie makes a distraction and ends up hitting this uranium just to see some damage done to Homelander. Obviously, that uranium blast kills Frenchie, which is a bummer. At least he gets to have one final moment with Kimiko, though, where Kimiko's holding him and they share an embrace, a sweet kiss. And I hope that Kimiko gets to live. We'll talk about her momentarily because I think that would be fitting. I don't want them both to die. This episode that he died in, the writing was on the wall. He was going to go, especially in retrospect. There's a couple scenes that feel very final with characters. And so R.I.P. Frenchie. He's a real one. He's a beloved OG Season 1 character. He's great, and he's gone now, which is really sad. It was a devastating end. It genuinely did wreck me. But those are the characters who've already died. The rest are characters who I'm going to predict straight up, and I think there's going to be some carnage, but I think now with only 1 episode left, about an hour left, more of these characters are going to live than I initially thought. Starting out, we've got Ashley, who, by the way, is now the president of the United States of America. Because Homelander killed the president in the last episode, so she is now the president. Will the president die again? I mean, maybe. I'm kind of up in the air on this one. This is one of the harder ones for me to predict because she's going to war basically with her mind. She has like this Voldemort-looking thing on the back of her head that obviously reads minds, but I feel like because Ashley said, I want nothing to do with you anymore, that her own brain's going to turn on her somehow and maybe cause her to die, but I'm up in the air on her. I really can't get a read on that because would they kill the president and then kill the vice president immediately after? It might be a bit much, but I don't envision a world where Ashley is the sitting president for 4 more years. That would just be out of control, so I can't imagine that happening. Then we got the Gen V squad. I don't know if they'll show up again, but they're certainly going to be alive and well. After they showed up, I was like, oh, they're barely in this, and there are a bit of like continuity, not issues, but maybe problems that could arise where this season of The Boys doesn't really take seriously season 2 of Gen V, where Marie Moreau is super powerful and kind of got her powers under control, it kind of doesn't acknowledge that, and there could be some frustrations between Gen V Season 2 and The Boys Season 5, especially if you're a huge fan of Gen V. You could feel slighted by this in a sense. And so, yeah, I think they're both going to make it out. They wouldn't kill them. The Boys has kind of said, hey, they aren't important to our show. In a sense, they've kind of taken a really big backseat when Gen V was propping them up to have a much larger role. So a bit of a clashing creatively behind the scenes maybe going on, who knows. Then we got the Deep, who is no longer a part of the Seven because Homelander disbanded them. And all of the fish and, the creatures of the sea said, if you step foot in the ocean or any body of water again, like, we're gonna kill you, man. You're a dead man, because they think he did this whole oil spill. And so at the end of the day, I don't think things are looking too good for him. I'm not gonna commit to Rip, and I don't want to get super dark here, but I genuinely, I could see him offing himself. Like, that's kind of the arc I think I see for the Deep. I'm going to say not looking too good. I don't know if he'll die, because with one episode left, he's so disconnected from everything right now, from Homelander, from our main plot. I just don't see him being involved in any of, like, the chaos that could ensue. So he's either going to off himself or just kind of ride the wave as a loser for the rest of his life. That's my guess, but not looking too good, Eileen. Like, not 100% Rip like some of these characters, but not looking too good. Then we got Hughie. I just have a feeling Hughie lives. There was a conversation with him and Butcher where Hughie mentioned the steakhouse, the topless steakhouse that Butcher had mentioned to Hughie in past seasons, where, hopefully they can go there together. If there's ever a line where characters are like, yeah, well, if we get out of here, we'll meet there, usually that's a red flag that one of them's dying. And I think Hughie's going to be alive. In fact, I'm calling my shot. He's going to be alive and well. Hughie's making it out of this thing. To me, I've always kind of viewed him as the main character in a sense, right? You could argue Homelander, Butcher. It's always kind of revolved around Hughie as like the human center of the story, especially back to season 1 when the show basically opens with him and the death of his girlfriend. So I just think he's going to make it out of this. He has to live. If they have a hopeful ending, it needs to involve Hughie in some way. And so I think he will survive all the chaos that's about to go down. Then we have Mother's Milk, who I've kind of been up and down on all season. Like, if you had asked me last week even, I'm like, yeah, MM's dead probably in episode 7. But there was a beautiful moment where he basically recounts how he got his nickname to Annie when they're on this mission. And then he basically says, I was down in the dumps. I was cynical. Like, I lost who I was, but ultimately, like, you got to find hope in the darkness. It was a really beautiful message that he delivered. It inspired me. Like, it was one of my favorite scenes in all of season 5, where he basically tells Annie, like, hey, you know who you are deep down. You're not Starlight right now. I know things are dark. Homelander has the V1, but we know who we really are deep down inside. It was inspiring. So I'm kind of up in the air on MM. Like, we just lost Frenchie. I feel like if they were going to kill one of them, it would have been MM or Frenchie, but not both. So I have a feeling maybe MM gets one of those happy endings where he finds himself, he gets to play a hero's role in the finale, and then he ultimately maybe does get to reunite with his fam. Like, I don't know how dark the show wants to go. There's an hour left. It could go real dark or maybe end on a positive note. So I'm going to say for MM, up in the air. Up in the air. He's making his way back towards the safe side for me, and I could be way off base with that.
Mother's Milk.
Then we got Oh Father. I think he's a dead man. I mean, we've seen Homelander kill multiple people in his circle already this season, one of them being the freaking president. So all it takes is for Oh Father to make one remark or one comment that Homelander doesn't agree with, and bang, he's dead. I think that's going to happen in the finale. He's going to kill him. Oh Father already kind of showing some frustration with Homelander, where he's like, I can convert these people. Like, give me a chance. I don't need to just kill them. So I feel like he's going to say something, and it's not going to land with Homelander, and bang, Daveed Diggs' character is getting offed. I'm feeling pretty confident in that. Then we got Soldier Boy. Interestingly enough, Soldier Boy is back in his chamber. Homelander basically put him in a sleeper hold, and so he's out cold. I don't know if he'll be woken back up. He could just, live his days out there, or he could just be killed in cryosleep. For some weird reason, I have a feeling they're going to wake him up. Homelander might need him. Someone might need him. But if he wakes up now, he's probably going to be even more pissed at Homelander and maybe try and fight him. So I just have a feeling him being locked up like that, he's not going to just end the show that way. He's not going to be there forever. He's going to die. It could be as lame as complications with the cryosleep chamber, but he's dead. He's dead somehow. I just don't see Soldier Boy surviving, even though his role has been lessened greatly in this last episode and probably in the finale. Then we got Stan Edgar, a character who is just not really on screen much. I think that's intentional. I think Stan Edgar is going to survive. I think the route we're heading with the potential Homelander death involves Stan Edgar coming back as the face of Vought. And he even had a scene earlier this season, I think a lot of people are forgetting, where he's talking about how, like, capitalism and the wheel keeps spinning. There's always going to be a corporation like Vought, and he kind of wants to run that once Homelander's gone, and so I think he should be safe. I think Stan Edgar should be safe. Would I like to see a Giancarlo death scene? Absolutely. I think he'd act the hell out of it, but he's taken such a big back seat. I just don't know if we're going to see a death scene for him at this point. Then we got Sage. I think Sage is toast. Sage is going to get killed by Homelander. R.I.P. I think she's dead for sure, especially because she assisted Kimiko and the boys so much, and obviously, if her plan works and her calculations to the uranium experiment are correct, Kimiko will be able to have Soldier Boy's powers. That's not going to fly with Homelander, so she's going to be Carnage and caught in the chaos of Homelander's rage when he finds that out. Or when he sees it in action, I guess I should say. Then we got Starlight, who's a real tough one to pin. She was down in the dumps in episode 7, all hope seemingly lost. MM kind of brought that back, and maybe she's got some of the spark again. I don't know if they want to kill her. I think Frenchie died. We're probably going to lose 2 other characters that I'm going to mention. I don't know. Part of me is like coming back to the idea of Starlight living, but then I look back at the whole season, okay? She had the moment with her dad. She's carried this guilt around. Maybe she does sacrifice herself for Hughie. I could see it happening. I don't know. I'm not looking too good is kind of where I lean, and I hope I'm wrong about that. That doesn't mean she's dead, by the way, but things aren't looking too good just because I see her sacrificing herself for Hughie. Weird gut feeling. Weird gut feeling. Anyway, next we have Kimiko. I think because of the death of Frenchie, Kimiko will get to live. Also, if you look at her backstory, from her being in a camp growing up to just the abuse she kind of endured, I feel like she's got to make it out of this thing. So I think Kimiko, even though she now possesses the power of Soldier Boy seemingly, and might go toe-to-toe with Homelander, I think she's going to be safe, and I think she deserves happiness. Of all the characters, she might deserve it the most. So I'm going to say she should be safe, and maybe that's wishful thinking. That's what I want for her. I hope I'm right, though. We got 3, the big 3 left, arguably. Butcher, Ryan, Homelander. Butcher's up next. He's the deadest character of them all. I'm putting him here. I think that he is a dead man for sure. In fact, this past episode solidified that for me. There was an exchange between him and Hughie where they basically had like a heart-to-heart. We saw, this flashback of sorts, not really a flashback, it's Synapse, one of the psychic characters, posing as Kessler, who was Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character in season 4, who of course was all in Butcher's head, but this time around, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character was actually visible to Hughie because, again, this psychic morphed into them. And so we saw Kessler basically airing out some dirty laundry in front of Hughie. He's like, yeah, Butcher is a psycho. Butcher, has this call to the darkness, and he will kill, and he lost his whole squad because he was so focused on the target. And so I think they're gonna sort of flip that on its head, right? Instead of everyone dying and Butcher being able to kill Homelander, I think Butcher might realize, I can save my squad, but I'm going to be the one to make the sacrifice play, and it's going to make his arc come full circle. So I think that's what they're setting up. Butcher will die to kill Homelander. In return, all the boys get to live. That's my ideal vision for the ending of the show, but I think Butcher and Homelander are on a collision course somehow, and I think it's going to involve Butcher dying. Then we got Ryan. Ryan is alive and well. In fact, I'm putting him up there. Ryan would have died by now, and he hasn't been in an episode for weeks. I just don't see him coming in and dying in the finale. I think he's going to make it out of this thing. In fact, he's got to be in the finale because he's probably going to somehow try, and if he's healed by now, he's going to try and help with taking down Homelander, but we also need him and Butcher to have one final interaction before Butcher's death, which I'm predicting. So I think Ryan will be alive and well. Feeling pretty good about that. And then finally, we got Homelander, who, for a while there, I was like, man, Homelander's going to win. I think Homelander, they might go the dark route. It would be like this timely social commentary. It'd be dark as hell, but it could work for the boys. Now I'm kind of like, I think he's a dead man. I just think he's going to go. And honestly, it's probably going to be at the hand of Butcher and Kimiko and the boys. And that's fitting. The whole entire show has been about the boys taking him down. And so with that, it would make the most sense for the boys to be responsible for his death. I hope Soldier Boy's not involved. My fear of Soldier Boy being the one to take him down is significantly lessened because Soldier Boy's in cryo sleep, cryo freeze, whatever the hell you want to call it. So I just imagine Homelander dying, and if this blast works, Kimiko's able to take away his powers, and Butcher delivers the kill shot. That would be glorious. I would love that. And so I'm going to say rip to Homelander. I'm going to commit to that right here, right now. I could be bloody wrong. I'm fully aware Homelander could win this whole thing and be the villain of the show that wins. With this ranking, I'm trying to be more optimistic. I think that these two are on a date with destiny. I've felt that way for years. They're both going to go out together in this finale. That's my final prediction. But it's crazy there's only one episode left. I can't believe it. This show is coming to an end soon. I'll have a lot of final ranking videos of characters, of seasons, of all that stuff, but only 7 days until the final episode of The Boys comes out. But let me know in the comments down below your final death predictions leading up to the finale. I'm curious to hear what you think. I myself, pretty nervous for just the show in general. How is it going to end? I'm worried it's going to feel rushed with only an hour left. Are they going to be able to satisfy us in that amount of time? Is everyone going to have their fitting ending? Will the showdown with Homelander be rushed? Like, I'm concerned, I'm anxious, I'm worried, but we only got a week to wait, so we'll find out soon. Again, let me know in the comments down below who you think is dead in the finale, who you think will live. Hit that like button, subscribe to that notification bell, and be on the lookout for more videos coming very soon. But thank you guys, as always, for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.